Now, it's alleged he was brutally killed at the hands of soldiers during the lockdown, but a National Defence Force inquiry report claims its members had nothing to do with the death of Collins Khosa. Now, the legal team for the Alexandra man's family here in Gauteng is preparing to challenge this report in court, as the SANDF reportedly failed to interview any of the relatives. Relatives of Collins Khosa claim the 40-year-old was choked, beaten and ridiculed by sjambok-wielding soldiers who'd approached him and his brother-in-law about drinking in the yard of his home on Good Friday. The lawyer for the family, Wikus Steyl, is now on the line to us. Mr. Steyl, good afternoon to you. So earlier this week, an SANDF report claims that his death did not result from the actions of its members. I assume that you are rejecting that report.
That report is rejected outright. Like you said earlier, the investigators did not even interview the family members. They only interviewed the soldiers and relied on statements previously provided by the family members to SAPS and IPID and JMPD. But my difficulty with that is I was present when those statements were given by the family members, and that confirms what was said in the High Court papers, that Collins was severely assaulted and beaten by the soldiers with guns and shamboks, and with a metal gate, beer was poured over his head. Now, for the SANDF to deny all of that and say that the soldiers were provoked and that the provocation was based on gender inequality, it's absolutely ridiculous. So it cannot be accepted.
So what is your next move then?
We are definitely going to review that report. We are just waiting for the final reports that have to be filed by the end of this week to see if all of the reviews will be in one application. If not, then we will just attack this SANDF report with our own experts and our own evidence.
What other reviews are there?
At the moment, we're waiting for reports from the police and the JMPD on internal investigations, and that they must provide a report to court and to me on those investigations. But they have indicated that they might appeal those sections, but I have not received notice of appeal yet. So I'm hoping we will receive the reports and that they will actually be reports of substance.
But if you don't get those reports, you're still challenging this anyway. What recourse then would you be seeking from the courts?
When we challenge this SANDF report, we will ask that the report is set aside in its entirety. But part of the process is that we will be provided with the full record that was taken into account when the report was drafted. And from there, we will see if it was just a sham investigation to comply with the order, or if it was a proper investigation, and if the investigation was not properly done, to see who we can take on for that section.
What is your or the family's engagement either with the Ministry of Defence or the SANDF right now? Is there any conversation happening?
No, any conversation that we had fell away just before the SANDF report was filed. Up to then, we were in good communications with the State Attorney. I wrote a last email to her, and I haven't received anything back except for filing of the reports.
And Mr. Steyl, what is the position then regarding the alleged perpetrators at this point? They were to have been suspended. What is your understanding of the position right now?
I understand that they are still on suspension, specifically the soldiers and the officers from JMPD. I don't know if they've been subjected to any internal disciplinary processes as yet, but I take note of the Minister's comments late last week that the soldiers are not off the hook and that she will continue against them. But I have not received any further update from that. As far as I know, that they suspended, and I hope they remain on suspension until the matter has been finalised, that they cannot roam the streets with the guns used to kill a man.
Mr. Steyl, how's the family dealing with this?
They're battling. It's very difficult for them to have gone through the 5-6 weeks of a court process and drafting affidavits, and to now see a report where they are denied any form of justice, where it's denied that Collins was killed by them, and instead the report now says Collins died of some other cause. The family cannot believe that, and they cannot accept it when they saw with their own eyes what happened on the day. But the family, they're traumatized. They're not doing well.
Just finally, Mr. Steyl, Mr. Khosa is one of a handful of civilians, as we know, who are said to have lost their lives during this lockdown at the hands of law enforcement officials. Patently, there's something wrong here. What do you think it is?
There's a lot wrong. Earlier today, I had a consultation with two other gentlemen who were also attacked, along with their children and wives at their homes. I've got clients coming to me 2-3 times a week with new instructions of being assaulted by soldiers and JMPD. it's clear that they are out of control, regardless of the code of conduct that was published last week. They just simply ignore the code, ignore the laws, and ignore the Constitution, and believe they can do as in what they want when they want to do it without any consequence. And something must be done about it. If it continues like this, there will be more deaths from the soldiers and the security forces than will be from the actual virus.
Wikus Steyl, we'll circle back to you and have another conversation a little later this week as we continue to follow this case very closely.